call this meeting of the Human Resource Committee to order. I want to wish you all a happy new year. I want to tell you at the beginning, since it's a new year and we're starting all fresh again, during my committee meetings, the issues that are brought before us, if you have questions, you raise your hand, get recognized, and direct your question to the chair. If there's a department head present, I will refer your question to the department head. If I can't personally answer it, or Mr. Wallace can't answer it. Is that okay? Okay. We'll start with number one. Approve amendments with Fidelis Care of New York and the Mental Health Department.
Yeah, this is a contract amendment. The contract was first approved in '99 and upgraded in 2004. It allows us to bill Fidelis for mental health patients.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion?
Who seconded
Henry, second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. She's coming right up.
Mary's here. Right behind the flag.
Oh, hi, Mary. Number two is Meals on Wheels waiting list. You probably read this in the paper,
TV,
radio, TV and the radio, not all over the place, but it's not a problem that's unique to Herkimer County. Other counties have experienced the same problem. I think it's on the agenda just more or less for FYI, right? Mary, is there anything you'd like to say about it, or no? Anyone have a question? Mr. Grove.
Mr. Chairman, I think it would be helpful if we could have articulated here just what the issues are, why we have the waiting list. Is it because I've gotten calls from people saying, is this because we don't have enough money to provide the meals? Is it there's not enough revenue we're getting in? Is it because we don't have drivers? A lot of ifs and questions. So it would help if we could put it here rather than what they read in the paper, to hear what our Herkimer County's position is. It would be very helpful.
Could you just give us a quick overview?
The waiting list is only 90. One in the village of Mohawk, 4 in the Frankfurt, West Frankfurt, Schuyler route, and 4 in the village of the West Winfield area. The problem is that we only have 2 hours from the time the food is finished in the kitchen to the time the last Meals on Wheels is delivered on that meal route. Those 2 big routes, the Frankfurt Schuyler and the West Winfield route, are 30 and 40 miles. So there's only so many meals that a Meals on Wheels driver can deliver. So without putting on another driver, you're pretty limited.
So it is, Mr. Chairman, so it is the lack of a driver and not funding for the meals?
Well, it would create another driver, like Mary says, and if that's an extra cost. And in the past, what we've done is we've kind of waited a few weeks, and the situation more or less clears itself up, because somebody will get off from it, and then we can pick up another meal on that route. But it isn't a problem that that we can overcome by just giving, like Mary says, more meals to a certain driver.
So, but it is a driver, so there's the cost of a
It
driver.
would be extra drivers, and it would involve 2 drivers.
One additional, or 2 because of the 2
Two,
routes, one was.
there's 2 districts. So
How long what has been the range of the waiting list, and how long have we had one? When you say it resolves itself?
Well, we have the waiting list here. The first one on the list was in Frankfurt, and that was in October. And the most recent one was in December.
So this goes back at least 3 months.
Yeah.
Mr.
Is there any possibility of frozen meals as you do in the North Country? Is there any other way? Is a driver the only solution?
Well, that is a possibility, right, Mary?
Yes, it is.
Yes, Mr.
Mr.
Bowman.
Chairman, I had talked to someone who was affiliated with one of the churches in town here, and they said that and I've talked to Mary on this before, if they, in any way they can help, if there's some program that they could do. And I said, it's pretty much money driven. I mean, we subcontract all our meals out, but we do need drivers. She was gonna go back to the congregation or the elders or whatever and see if they can come up with something. I don't know if we could, could we accept monies from a church? I'm sure we could, right? And maybe if we could put an appeal out to all the other churches, I mean, if they'd be willing to pick up slack, or just even in drivers too. I know you said there was an issue. So she's gonna let me know if the church is willing to do something. So I'll get back to either Mary and the chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Corse.
Mary, during your tenure, what caseload numbers have you seen it go from and to Meals on Wheels?
Well, just in the last couple of years, I don't remember, I didn't go back that far, Dennis, but in 2009, we served 425 people with meals. This is just Meals on Wheels. This is the home delivered meal portion, not the congregate. 2010, we were up to 460, and in 2011, 493. So that's an increase of 68 people countywide.
Is there any need criteria, or you may not use a need criteria?
No,
Yeah,
we-
means.
Means or,
There's no income guidelines. That comes from the Older Americans Act and the federal statute where the money, most of the
and
money.
you may not use one, correct?
Correct.
So,
But
so
they-
you're
they
kind
do-
of like in a, if someone asks and you can't check, you can't deny for that reason, so as these numbers come at you, you're doing the best you can with the logistical problems that you've got.
Right.
To answer Mrs. Rose's question about time on the waiting list, in September, the waiting list began with 2 people. Since that time, it exploded to 18 people. And at the present time, we have 9, so you can see that it fluctuates. We had 18 and now we're back to 9. The problem was much more serious before than it is right now. So that's why I'm saying it'll probably take care of itself. It fluctuates back and forth. And other counties have had the same problem, so. Yes,
I just wondered what I'm sorry, who are you looking at, Pat?
Pat.
Well, I mean, issues were spoken of too, and one of the issues is obviously having to spend more money.
That's correct.
Having to hire another driver would be more money. Having to pay for additional food is more money. We budget a certain allocation, and I'm not sure what those budget numbers are, but I know they're up from last year. I don't know if there's a way in which we could pay now and hope later that people, people don't need it towards the summer months and stuff like that. But Mary does a good job there in trying to allocate the amount of money that we have within the budget to meet the needs that we have.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree that he does a great job with this program, and I know many people have benefited from it, and these are people that contributed throughout their lifetime toward our tax coffers. One thing I found striking in one of the recent articles about Meals on Wheels is on the same page. Of course, in the one article, the waiting list is here, and there's also a article directly below it relative to the number of funded vacant positions, some of which I understand may not be filled for a long period of time. So as far as budgetary, it would seem to me if we needed a driver.
That's a different situation. That is, no bearing on
I
this.
can answer that.
Well, can I speak?
I can answer that too.
Well, the issue.
Yeah, I think
I
that's
didn't ask a question.
Gary, I think it's a great thing. I think it's, to bring that up, I think it was alluded to that both in the sheriff's department, also 911, which is the majority of those openings. You'll see tonight, we're adding $70,000 more. There's not enough money budgeted. The problem is we have not been able to hire enough individuals, and because of that, the overtime is going through the roof. And because of that, we had to add extra money into the 911 account of about $15,000 to $17,000, and we're adding $70,000 more to the jail account tonight. So there's not extra money in those accounts.
So you anticipate that these unfunded, or these funded positions will be filled in?
No, the problem is, Gary, we can't find the bodies to do that. So what happens is we have to, it creates, because it's a 24/7 operation, both of those operations, you need individuals there. And by doing that and having to pay more overtime for those positions, we're not, what we budgeted, we're actually having to add more dollars to both of those accounts.
And these funded positions are in other departments, they're not in Mary's department.
Well, there's always transfers, right?
Mr. Chairman, can we quantify how much money we're talking about? If we were to miraculously have the money, how much is the driver gonna cost us? How much are the meals gonna cost us? I'm just curious, how much are we talking about to not have a waiting list? And I appreciate, Mr. Chairman, what Mr. Russell said. You can, I forget how he said it, pay now and hope later. I don't really know how does it work. Do we decide that the budget that the Office of the Aging and Mary does do an outstanding job? How do you apportion that over the course of the 12 months? Do we anticipate an even keel and therefore try to have the money hold us for the 12 months? Or, you know, I mean, we're January, we're not out of money. We have money, but we just don't know that it would hold us for 12 months, I guess is what I'm hearing. I'd like to know how much is involved.
Mary has a schedule here that she put together for us. Meals, the meals drivers, there's two of them, would require two. They get $7.28 an hour.
728, is that true?
Yes. Add $30 per hour, or, I'm sorry, 30 hours. And the fringe benefits are $865. So for those two drivers, the total is $12,500. Estimated mileage is 40 miles a day. And that's another $10,000. Estimated cost of additional meals would be 15 meals at $5.68 for 254 days. That's $21,650. Estimated cost of additional meals for the Frankfurt Schuyler one is $16,200. The federal and state reimbursement, there's no federal and state reimbursement right now. So it would have to be greater than what we're getting, you know, and we don't anticipate it's going to be an increase. Minus the estimated donations she put down here, and I think this is really kind of large, $12,000. So the local cost would be $48,330.
Mr. Chairman, could you share a copy of that? The question that I would have, and I think it was alluded to, and then we were thinking about it, I think, was a comment. If we did frozen meals, we wouldn't have to do it. I mean, we could say to the people, we can't do a fresh meal every day and a warm meal every day, but in the North Country, they're getting frozen meals, and are they sending out frozen meals 1 week at a time, or how are we doing it, and can we do that? Could we do something so that in Herkimer County, we're able to take care of it? I looked at the report that came today in the mail from the Department of Social Services, and we can see what's happening with the caseloads on various things. And our seniors certainly aren't immune to the kinds of difficulties that are facing families. I just wondered if there's any alternative, and to hear what we might do as far as frozen meals would be helpful.
Well, I'm sure Mary could offer that to them, and they could decide whether they wanted to take a frozen meal or not, but even that has to be delivered.
But not 5 days a week.
No, but somebody's got to deliver it, so we would need to have somebody step forward and say, yeah, I would deliver these meals.
But if you have the driver, I'm sure Mary can work it out, and maybe the existing drivers get a couple of extra hours on the day they deliver the meals or something. I don't know how, I wouldn't presume to do it. I would just hope that we would give direction to the extent possible. I mean, you can say it will resolve itself, but 18 hungry seniors is a concern, and if, the other question I would have is, as we have a waiting list, are they pulled on a first come, first serve? Or are they pulled, can we, if we can only pick up so many people, can we pick up based on need of the waiting list? Can you pick out? Yeah.
Can you, Mary?
Yes, certainly.
Okay. Anyone else?
Do we?
Mr. Brzezinski.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, or maybe Mary should, but can we reach out to West Frankfurt? I know I talked about a veteran in West Frankfurt last year. I don't know if you want to answer that, or Mary can answer it, but I don't know exactly what had to happen there, because I know he had to go in the hospital. And can we reach out to West Frankfurt, or is it still too far, Mary, or what here? What's the situation there?
It's outside of the district that we're serving right now, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot of geographic areas in the county that we do not provide any Meals on Wheels to because there's so few and they're so far. So West Frankfurt and parts of West Frankfurt have fallen into that category, just like the town of Danube and a lot of other areas.
But I still have a concern, Mary, because there are veterans over there, and he's one of them that served our country.
Well, and I certainly understand that. We do not like to turn anybody away, whether a veteran or not. When they're, half of our Meals on Wheels clients are age 85 and over. We do not like to have to say no.
Is there a possibility that you could look into Oneida County to see, because it's right over the line? I mean, he's a half a mile over the line.
And we did check with Oneida County, and they will consider delivering those meals if we pay for them. How much?
Wait, I'm sorry, if they pay for them?
If we,
pay for them.
so we're right back to where we are now with the cost.
So what's the, you know, what do we do here? I mean, as far as, as far as my people are concerned, in West Frankfurt, like I said, there's veterans over there, and he happens to be one of them.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I
Mr.
suggest you contact the legislator in Oneida County that deals with that district and have him deal with the problem.
Well, it's actually in
Well,
Herkimer
it's in
County.
Herkimer County.
I thought you said it's open.
No, it's just inside of Herkimer County, but it would be closer for Oneida County to deliver.
Okay, all right.
As it is right now, we don't have a meal deliverer in that area. So he'd have to go out of his area to make that delivery.
I bet.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Corsi.
It's both a logistical problem and a money problem. There's no question about, Mary juggles this around the best she can to serve as many people as she can.
Yeah.
I mean, as a member of the Finance Committee for a long time, we know that all these programs in Mary's office, some of them were 100% funded, 90% funded, and slowly but surely, those funds have gone down to 75%, 80%, 50%, or even stopped altogether. And we keep juggling these things around, trying to do the best we can with these programs. And it's just, it's hard to fund them all at the same time and keep all of them current and up to snuff.
It makes me think that today, we had Senator Seward in here, and he spoke about the state of the state and what things are going on in our state. And he mentioned that 50% of our tax money goes to Albany to finance Medicaid. Now, we had 9 legislators here, and we got a lot more here tonight. But these problems are caused because of the mandates that we have. If we had that money from those mandates, we'd have no problem financing these programs. It's another local program that's being overlooked because we are mandated to death. We have got to stop the state from taking all our money to Albany, and we'd have more to spend in local programs. Mr. Russell.
How many, we've talked about a needs test. Can you do a needs test too, or how does it work? Because not everybody who gets Meals on Wheels necessarily needs Meals on Wheels.
Well, I would have to, like, to differ with that.
All right.
Because everybody that goes on Meals has to meet criteria that they're not able to safely prepare food on their own, is the basic thing. They're basically homebound. Or they're they're using a walker, and so it's not safe for them to take a pot of water from the stove and get it to the, to the sink with boiling water when you're using a
So
walker.
there is a need.
There is a need. Yes, if there is not a need, then we don't serve them.
Well, how do you do it in the when you do it at the congregate locations, is that a need set too?
No, congregate meals is any senior who wants to attend can. But the vast majority of the people that we do serve in the congregate meal program live in the building where we have our site. And if we did not have that congregate meal site, they would be home to live. The vast majority of it. I would say 90% would be on need. Yes, they would meet the qualifications to live in.
Mr. Bowman.
I forgot to mention earlier, when I talked to the individual, excuse me, the individual in the church, she did mention that the church is able to buy quantities of food through this program, and the name escapes me right now, but they are able to buy bulk quantities of food and distribute them in any regard. But I don't know if they would be able, and I don't know the legality of this, but maybe it's something we could look into, if the agencies we subcontract with would be able to receive this food and in turn lower their price on the meals, and we serve more. I'll check with Rob tomorrow if something like that can happen, and if it can happen, well, if we could pick up another 8-10 people with that, but we'd have to have willing partners in the subcontractor, so.
Mr. Brzezinski.
Mr. Chairman, one more question. Is there anybody in Schuyler that receives Meals on Wheels as far as what is there?
Yes.
There is.
I have tenants that receive meals.
That might be an answer for the person that you're talking about. Is he homebound? Can he get out?
Right now, he had an operation, and I don't know quite what's going on with him right now, but the thing of it all is Schuyler is just about as far away as Frankfurt, possibly.
No, what I was thinking, maybe he could go to one of those congregate meal sites and eat his meal there. We could supply the meals there because that's like a drop-off point. It doesn't require any additional driving. But if it was at a drop-off point, it would only be the cost of the meal. So if he's able to go to one of those sites, that might be a way to service him.
Could I have the locations of those, Mary, please? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman? The list that you have, does it list where the meals are going to communities? Is that what you have there?
The number of meals.
I guess I'm curious of the whole geographic region now as we talk about it, and where we're sending meals out to, what regions. Do we have a precise reference?
No, it's not site specific.
If it's available, I'd like that, if I can have it. Whatever you have there, and then know that. Just to have a sense. I had someone call me and said, can we adopt a senior?
Yeah, so.
Where do you send them to adopt one of these people that are on the waiting list? I said, I don't know what to tell you. After tonight, maybe we'll know more. It just seems that we have made, and I know that you suggested that what Mr. Hartman said was out of line, but we make a variety of decisions in the budget, this legislature. And these are the most vulnerable of our people. When you think 50% of them are over the age of 85, I think we ought to be able to figure out a way to squeak this out and how to save it. And if we have to look at it more critically come June or August or whatever, and review the program at that point and see where it is. We'll have more information on what's happening on the state level. I don't like the idea that we can have those seniors with no option. And I have to suspect if they hit the needs test, then they're needing it. And in order to get on the waiting list, they've been cleared for a needs test, and I don't know how that need is being met then. And not that we can be the end-all and be-all for everybody, but right now we're into January. I think we ought to be able to figure out a way to do it.
Well, I'm sure Mary has looked at this, and she has tried desperately to figure out ways to handle it. But I think, as you can see, that it fluctuates, you know, and right now, it's at 9, but it has been higher. And other counties have reported that they've had incidents where people are on the waiting list.
But our budget isn't dry. Our Office of the Aging Meals on Wheels budget is there right now. We're plotting that we don't have enough to take us through December, therefore we will keep these, we have a certain level that we can feed, I guess, is the way we look at the budget. Over the 12 months, we can feed this many a month, and we're not gonna go more than that. Is that how it's working?
Well, that's,
That's part.
yeah,
The
that's,
logistics part, or delivery is another part, which is also.
Well, I'm saying, we look at the budget, Mr. Chairman, and we're saying, in order to do this, we can feed this many people in these many groups, and this is all we can afford to do in order to keep that number through the end of the year. Is that how it works?
that's correct.
So if you did more right now and ate the, however, $48,000 more or whatever it is, that would take care of the 18, or that would only take care of the 4?
It's not 18, it's 9.
9, excuse me, that would take care of the 9 or only the 4 when you did that math? Was that just the
No.
Frankfurt one?
Takes care of all of them.
All of them for $50,000.
9 people get 48,000.
Yeah.
But it could be modified with frozen meals.
Two routes, right?
It was 2 routes, but when I did those calculations, I based it on full routes.
Oh, okay.
Because once you put that driver out there, you know darn well what's gonna happen.
Unless you do frozen meals. And then people choose. They like the food right now.
Mr. Harvey.
I'll be brief. I just wanted to point out one of the benefits of that program is I know a number of people that get it, that if they didn't get it would probably be in an assisted care facility, which would raise healthcare costs. Mr. Bono mentioned volunteers and hopefully people would come forward. I was just curious as to whether drivers, if somebody wanted to volunteer to drive, would they need a background check, and would volunteers be able to do it?
So they do need a background check.
Well, what is, well, we
We
can
have to
take
check.
in volunteers to drive if they pass the
If they
background.
pass the background test, yes. Okay, all those in favor, well, there's no vote on this, it's just information only. I'm sorry.
I want to make sure, Mr. Chairman. The 21,650 for extra meals, that was for West Winfield? And then there was 16,200.
Yeah.
Yes, there's two
Right.
different
Two different
routes.
contractors, 2 different prices per meal.
And that was where you were figuring in not just 9 people, or.
Right, we're looking at
You were looking at a
basically a full of 15 meals each.
15 meals.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, would you make available the list that you have, the information that you have there?
sure.
A copy of it, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is accepting $750,000 senior housing grant and amend the budget. That's also in Mary's, this is at
Yes.
home, yeah. Yeah.
Motion.
Jimmy makes a motion, there's a second. Mr. Hyde?
I just asked, where this grant comes from and where does $750 go to?
The grant is a New York State block grant, $750,000 to Herkimer County Senior Housing Rehabilitation. Authorized to apply for this grant was authorization of resolution number 48 in February 16, 2011.
Well, what does it apply to the 750 word?
This is a $750,000, and it's to be used between Herkimer County and the Home Ownership Center, legally known as Utica Neighborhood Housing Service. And it's those grants that we give to homes in Herkimer County that need repair. Mrs. Rose.
Mr. Chairman, maybe I recall on this, Mary had a long waiting list, and we were put, is that the one where people identify the special needs they have on their property? I just would be interested in knowing, now that we've got this, is the waiting list already enough to suck it all up? Eat it all?
I believe so, but I have to check. That the waiting list is handled through the home ownership center, and I haven't seen it in a while, so I'm not sure where it is exactly.
And Mr. Chairman, and that is need-based? I mean, excuse me, financial need-based?
Is it, Mary?
Yes, it is.
And Mr. Chairman, may we hear back just in terms of the waiting list, just some data in terms of whether it's all been applied for and pretty much.
When she gets the information, I'm sure she'll disperse it to us.
Mr. Chairman, Mary, is there a ceiling on that for individually at $25,000 max? Is that the same one?
Yes, the 3-year forgivable loan is the maximum of $25,000.
It's a great program.
Okay, we need a motion on that one to accept it.
We had Jim in mind.
Oh, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next one is number 4, approve contracts with the home ownership center and Herkimer County, whatever that is. Planning. And senior housing grant. We have to sign a contract with them to disperse this money, I guess. Is that correct? Lenny and Mr. Shaw. All those in favor?
Dutch, question?
Question?
Do we know what the freight is? How much they get of the grant for handling it?
We paid them, don't we, for that service? Isn't that part of our?
Well, it comes out of the grant. Mary, do you have those numbers?
No, you don't have those numbers.
We'll get them for you then.
Okay.
I apologize.
No,
I should have.
I just wanted to know what the freight.
No, absolutely.
There's always freight.
Mr. Chairman, do we take any piece of it? The county take any piece of it?
No.
No, thank you.
Okay. Number 5, approve the contract for the lead grant with New York State in public health nursing. Doc?
This is a continuation of the grant that we've had yearly.
Mary,
And
thank
it
you.
represents an increase this year for of about $15,000, and we're not been made aware of whether that's going to be the continuing amount for the grant. It had been $23,000 to $25,000 this year's
Thank you. Have a motion? Mrs. Benny, seconded by Lenny. Mr. Hendricks?
Whatever.
All those in favor?
No, Mr.
Oh,
Chairman.
Mrs. Rose.
I guess it's up 15,000 and it's up to 39,000, is that what I heard?
39,572.
39,572. Do we take the staff who work on lead come out of this? What's it spent on?
This is spent pretty much entirely on staff, support staff, educational materials, travel, other expenses necessary to fulfill the work.
So do we know of 39,572, what percentage of our total cost of the lead program this meets?
In years gone by, the lead program was about 25% paid for by the grant, and this year it probably is going to pay 100% of the cost.
Okay, 100%. Mr. Chairman, I'm just trying to understand, is this the program that's funded with an individual coming in 1 day a week? Is that the staff commitment to this, and then ancillary staff back at Public Health?
This is a part-time position of up to 20 hours per week.
Mr. Chairman, may I understand how many hours are being spent on it?
Currently, every day of the week, and at other times of the year, just 1 day of the week.
So it's up to 20 hours a week, and sometimes we're not that. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Corsi.
Doc, will there ever be a point in time where it won't be necessary to run a lead program anymore? I mean, the information and you know, the effects of lead poisoning have been, you know, we've been hit from a lot of different directions, information-wise, for a long time. Have we gotten to the point where we've saturated everybody with the knowledge and we're on top of it? Or new sources of lead contamination showing up? I don't know.
Yes to both of those questions, or no perhaps. We have saturated education, but people seem to forget the classic case in Herkimer County, since we have such a high percentage of older homes, is that a new couple who are likely to either be having a child or have a child decide to renovate the home, and that's our biggest source and continuing source of patients who end up with lead poisoning. The other progressive issues have been that the CDC and the New York State Department of Health have progressively lowered the level that requires investigation, so that some years ago a level of 20 units in the child's blood would be considered worthy of investigation. Now it's down to about 10, and the latest recommendation of the CDC is down to 5. So the effects of lead poisoning are so significant, long-lasting, not only involve behavior, IQ, success in school, violence, but also long-term kidney disease. That lead poisoning is one of the great successes, but also one of the great legacies that remains in our housing and some of the waste sites that have occurred from various industries. And then every year there's toys and trinkets and so on from McDonald's, et cetera, not necessarily McDonald's, but that come in from foreign countries that where they're snuck in lead. So.
And this is one of your mandated, this is one of the county's mandated programs. We shall provide this.
Absolutely mandated.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I just wondered if the program puts out any kind of a report so that we can see, Dr. articulated all of the various changes that have been made. Are there any kind of statistics that tell us contacts or investigations or that kind of stuff in any place that could be referred?
There is reporting.
We have a reporting in this year it'll be in your annual.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Number 6 is approve the budget amendment for the Children with Special Needs Grant. This is another public health department program. How much is the grant?
$18,672 for a 3-year total of $56,016.
And motion will move. Mr. Henry, seconded by Mr. Hyde. Is there any discussion on this one? All those in
Mr. Chairman, we need to have more information about what this is going to be paying for.
This is the children with special health care needs.
Yes.
And
Yes.
this is a program that may be phased out, and it is a program that provides a stopgap for families who have a child with certain heritable or inborn conditions for which they do not have insurance, and which meet there's a large catalog of what diseases, including genetic diseases and cancer and other diseases that are specified. And what the county's involvement is that if the child is not covered by insurance, not covered by Medicaid, not covered by Child Health Plus, then we help out with or completely cover those expenses. And depending on the year and the patient, we may go over our expense. We pay 50%. We are paid back 50% of what we expend, up to $50,000.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, when you said a 3-year grant, 18,672, I don't know if Jim gave that, or who gave it?
56,016.
What are the 3 years? This year, next year, and the following year?
11 through 14.
I have a question. When we have a case where lead poisoning is, let's say you bring a baby into the hospital because it's ill, and you find out that the baby has lead poisoning, is there any vehicle or mechanism to go back and find what the source was and then correct the source, so that we don't continually deal with the same apartment that's 100 years old, got 100-year-old windows in it, loaded with lead paint, and nobody is removing this, so it's a continuous problem, and as long as this apartment is rented to young couples, you're gonna have young babies that are gonna be poisoned with this stuff. And I think it's time that we might look at what the source is. We know what the source is, but a vehicle to correct this problem. Make the landlord correct it, or have the city or village pass an ordinance that once it's known that there's lead contamination in the building, they can't rent that apartment until it's corrected. And the only way you're gonna correct it is to remove it.
Well, one of the programs that's, Mary's gone now, but through those, what is it called, the neighborhood housing service, youth and neighborhood housing services, those grants that they hand out, when they evaluate that home for whatever renovations they gotta do, one of the things they look at is the lead paint around windows and staircases and all that stuff, and that's part of the program. They remove that, or either remove it or cover with something so it can't be, you know, affect the child or affect the people.
You can't cover it no matter what you put on it.
Mr. Chairman, I am certified for lead, you can cover it. The state is, when I paint that with new paint, that's all they consider clean, good to go. That's what we took the class for. And when the contracts, like you're saying, they are, if it's lead in the house, when you bid on that, you know up front, you have rules and guidelines to follow.
Right.
The only trouble we get into like that is the local codes guys don't make sure that whatever contractor's working there has his lead certification, so they'll turn their heads. But there's a lot, lead is very strong now as far as, you can just seal it, all you have to do is seal it with a new paint, and that meets its code.
Yeah, but what happens when that new paint wears off?
What happens with anything older, I mean,
Well, yeah, you're right back in the same situation.
But removing it is way worse, they feel, than just covering up the problem. You just can't go into an old house. It was built before 78, I think it was, anything before that time, because that was the paint was removed.
Yeah.
You just can't take it out of the house. It's just, it's virtually impossible to.
That is part of the program, though. That's one of the
1870.
things they look at.
That's my house where I built.
This is Rose.
It's back on the special needs grant, of that program for children with special needs, just for education purposes then, that's funded at what reimbursement? I mean, what kind of reimbursement do we normally get through that program? How much of that is, because that's mandated, right? We have to do it. Or is it? Mr. Schiffel, answer the formal question.
That's a voluntary program.
It's a voluntary program. So how much are we spending on that program over and above this grant? Is that 100% covering it?
Mr. Chairman? As it turns out, one year we spent more than that, but most years we receive costs for administering the grant that far exceed our expense. Some years our costs are $250, $500, and so there's a lot of work associated with that, and many counties, including our own, have discussed whether we should continue with the grant. However, it does help pay some of the other staff salaries who are involved in administering the grant.
I wasn't clear enough on my question. This is the special needs grant, but we still have that special children's program, Jim, that Mr. Wallace has spoken about, that the county is bearing an awful lot of the cost. This is the program the grant that's administered through that program, right? For the children.
For preschool?
Preschool.
No, the preschool is very, very different.
Very separate,
Absolutely.
okay.
Separate's a better word.
This is for healthcare, this one.
But it's not for the same population.
Well, it could be more.
I would think it could be possible, absolutely.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And I think the next one.
Okay.
I'd like to combine 7 and 8 during the budget season, I think, for the old timers who were here and for the new guys, we decided to move 2 positions out of account 4012, our long-term care program, one to DSS, the RN, and then the account clerk. We decided to move that person from 4012 to 4010. These 2 resolutions would accomplish that. The money was budgeted. When we did the salary schedules, those weren't included. It's kind of a housekeeping measure.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second? Mr. Hendricks and Mr. Shaw.
Can we know the amount of money, Mr. Chairman?
You got them?
I'd have to defer to Tim and Doc if you had that.
I do have it. Base salary,
Mm-hmm.
3607.
Except which one are we talking about? So the nurse,
Yeah.
That's the nurse.
just 36?
Steve
07.
would have the account clerk. Steve, you have the account clerk?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, both.
You want base on this? 25,785.
Mr. Chairman, these are filled positions that the individuals are transferring?
Correct.
And when is it effective?
1/1/12.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, second number 8. No, it's actually number 9, right?
Second.
Yeah, the second. This one is approved TANF contract with social services. You got that, Tim?
I do have it. Yes, TANF, it's temporary assistance to needy families, which is kind of a common acronym in our business. These are contracts, and there really isn't any changes from the last, well, I'll say at least 3 years that I'm aware of, that we have. I'll go through them each one. If anybody has any questions, they can ask me. First one is contract with mental health for $21,000. They do assessments on TANF and safety net clients, drug and alcohol cases. The second one is $35,955 with the Center for Life and Recovery. That is for the management and coordination services of drug and alcohol. It's more of a on-site at-interview type process where they manage and coordinate the care and direct the care for people identified with drug and alcohol problems at the initial interview and throughout their case history. Number 3 is a contract with Catholic Charities. It's a statutory contract for $20,000. That's our domestic violence liaison, provides services in-house or as needed to clients who indicated at the time of interview or any time thereafter that there's a potential or existing issue of domestic violence. The fourth one is annual contract with kids from NIDA under our Kids Herkimer program. It's $218,700, and that's a preventive services contract, providing a variety of services for our children at different levels of care. Number 5 is Legal Aid Society. That's a $12,000 contract serving TANF and some safety net maintenance of effort. And during an appeal process, they often apply for SSI, which obviously are Social Security Disability, which will basically take them off our rolls. So we use legal aid to walk them through the appeals process. It's a fairly good program. Number 6 is Resource Center for Independent Living, he works with our employment unit, a variety of vocational and medical review items, disability support. Number 7, Center for Life and Recovery, that's our PINS unit, their portion of our PINS unit, $341,935. That's been the same for the past 3 years. Providing diversion for our children to keep them out of any level of care that we can. These are all funded primarily by the Flex Fund for Family Services, which is 100% federal money. So we do our best to use that funding for these items. The last 2 on the list are one with Catholic Charities, which is a non-residential domestic violence for TANF clients and their families. And then we have a contract for preventive services with Berkshire Farms for high-risk out-of-home placement children.
How much time?
That is $145,000.
Motion.
Lee, Hendricks, and Shaw, second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Tim, can you give us an update on the children's RFP?
I sure can. It's going out tomorrow. Finish it today.
Hoping to have it, Tim, by the end of the month?
Due in January 31st.
Okay, thank you.
How many pages?
From 242 to 26.
Yeah, it was 242, and that was just crazy. Thank you for doing that.
It's real small print.
Now, number 9, approved transfer of funds for salaries and social services. I don't have that, I don't think. Yes, I do too.
What was number 9?
Transfer of funds and social services, we're transferring $14,000 from the public home salaries to social service administration salaries. May I have a motion? Mr. Hendricks, seconded by Mr. Shaw. Any discussion?
Do we understand the need for that?
That's the CSEA contract.
That's correct.
So when we had, Mr. Chairman, vacancies that were funded that were for the public home, this is the kind of money that it would be coming from, that were vacant? When we say you're taking it from public health, is that where it's coming from, unfilled positions? Just to understand.
Is it? Tim?
Can you repeat that?
Why we would have money in the public home that we can transfer to social services? Is it sitting there because there's vacancies, it's personal service money that we're transferring, Sally?
It's salary money, yes.
So it's positions that were not filled, but, because we did on that vacancy list have some positions down at Country Manor that were on there. So that's like where this is coming from.
Correct.
Okay. So it doesn't have to go to a particular vacant position, we just take it out of the pot.
Correct.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Is there any other thing for human resources?
Motion adjourned.
Second. All those in favor? We're adjourned.